Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We'll read from Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Canto 9, Celestial Dynasties, chapter number 3, Sage, Chyavana and Sukanya. Mukam Karoti Vachalam, Pangum Langhaite Girim, Yat Kripa Tamam Vande Shri Gurum Dhintarinam, Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram, Hari Om Tat Sat. So, first of all, very happy Jagannath Puri Rath Yatra to all of you. It's happening today as we speak. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Parikshit leaned forward. Please tell me more about Vaivasvata's descendants. Shukadev said, King Sharyati, another of Vaivasvata's son, was so learned in the Vedas that he could instruct Angira's descendants in the finer details of a sacrifice they performed. Hear now from me about Sharyati's beautiful lotus-eyed daughter Sukanya, with whom he visited Chyavana Muni's ashram. Father, I miss you so much when you go on these long trips. Sukanya held Sharyati's hands tightly. Please take me with you. I promise I will be no trouble. This is no pleasure excursion to some neighboring kingdom. Sukanya, we are going to forest to consult with sage Chyavana Muni. You will be bored and the journey will be dangerous. I can bring some friends so I won't be bored, suggested Sukanya. And how can we be in any danger when accompanied by the heroic king Sharyati and his army? Father, please let me come. Sighing, the king assented. She danced and clapped her hands excitedly before embracing her father. Oh, thank you, father. I promise you won't regret this. The Sukanya and her friends, along with the king and his soldiers, rode out of the city early the following day in fine carriages. After some hours, they reached a lake at the foot of the hill, which Sharyati's Brahmin advisors assured him was the location of sage Chyavana's hermitage. I heard that he lives in a cave on the hillside, said one of the Brahmins. Two soldiers immediately began climbing in search of it. Shortly after, they found a cave that bore signs of having been lived in, but not for some time. It was overgrown with bushes and there was no sign of any fires or present occupation. They climbed back down to inform the king. It does not look like he has been there for years. The soldiers refreshed themselves by the lakeside whilst Sharyati consulted with his ministers then to keep his daughter and her friends away from the lake where the soldiers were. Sharyati instructed her to gather fruits and nuts from the nearby trees. Don't go too far, he shouted after the girls as they ran off to execute their mission. The girls climbed trees and shook branches, spreading their dresses to catch the falling fruits and nuts. Their peals of laughter rang through the woods. Soon they had made a sizable pile of ripe fruits and nuts. Lying down on the bare earth, they talked excitedly, eating the fruits and bathing their beautiful faces in the sun. They picked up twigs and drew pictures on the soft ground. As they amused themselves, Sukanya noticed two luminous objects in an earthworm mound. Curious, the girl poked a sharp stick into these two glowing wormholes and was shocked to see blood ooze out of them. The princess dropped the stick. What have I done? She cried. Meanwhile, all the soldiers resting by the lake suddenly felt a strong urge to evacuate and urinate. Squatting behind bushes, they tried to relieve themselves, but to no avail. Their bellies became distended and they groaned with discomfort. Sharyati decided to proceed further in the forest in search of Chyavana. He looked around for his commander to order him to ready the men, but he could not find him or any soldiers. Frowning in annoyance, he strode toward the lake. It was a hot day and they had probably decided to take a swim. As he approached the lake, he saw several soldiers crouched among the bushes, groaning and holding their bellies in pain. Hurry up there, he shouted. We need to get moving. All he heard in reply was loud grunts. Going to the lakeside, he splashed water on his face and scooped some up in his hands to drink whilst waiting for his men to finish. Half an hour passed and the soldiers remained behind the bushes, their groans getting louder. Vexed, he wandered among them. What's going on? Hurry up, we don't have all day. Then he noticed that not one of them had yet passed. Their faces were contorted with pain as they strained vainly to relieve themselves. Anxious, he hurried to his Brahmin advisors who waited in the clearing. I don't know how, but I fear one among us has somehow wronged the powerful Chyavana from the condition of our men. I'm certain someone has defiled his ashram. Overhearing her father, Sukanya wrung her hands in anxiety. What if the blood oozing from the two wormholes was that of sage Chyavana? It was not unknown for sages to meditate for so long that they became covered by the earth. What did you do, child? I have ignorantly pierced two glowing objects with the thorn. She took her father to the earth mound. Very carefully he removed the soil and to his horror found Chyavana Muni sitting cross-legged, covered with mud with blood running from his eyes. The king fell flat before the blinded sage. Then kneeling before him he offered prayers of glorification and begged for forgiveness. O venerable sage, my daughter Sukanya is but a mere child. She had no intention to harm you. Please release my men from their predicament. Sharathi offered Chyavana gold and servants as he recompense for the wrong done to him. I'm an ascetic. What need do I have for your gold and servants? Chyavana said dryly. Order me, my lord, how may I repair the wrong done to you by my ignorant daughter? Sharathi implored. Tell me, Chyavana said. Then his body became racked with a coughing fit. Spitting out phlegm, he finally finished his sentence. Is she married? Sharathi stared at the aged sage. After being covered by earth for so many years, his skin had become loose. He was diseased. His straggly hair was white and his veins protruded all over his body. As well as that, his head and limbs constantly shook due to his old age and infirmity. Now he was also blind. How could Sharathi give his beautiful young daughter to him? Yet he had no choice. If he did not appease the sage, he and his entire army were doomed to certain destruction. No, my lord, he replied, his voice straining with apprehension. There was silence. Chyavana made no further comment. He sat in his meditative pose, blood still trickling down his face from his eye sockets. Excusing himself, Sharathi took his daughter to one side and explained his dilemma to her. Father, she replied gravely, it is due to my frivolity that you are in such danger. I willingly agreed to become the sage's wife. I assure you, I will do everything possible to satisfy him and bring you good fortune. Embracing his daughter with tears in his eyes and praising her virtue, Sharathi approached Chyavana and humbly said, O great sage, please accept my daughter. She desires to serve you throughout her life. I accept, replied Chyavana. With these words, there were loud cries of relief from the bushes as the soldiers finally relieved themselves. After marrying Chyavana, Sukanya did everything she could to make him comfortable and happy. Although he was frequently irritable, she would collect ripened berries, mangoes, and wild grapes from the forest for him, fetching pots of river water. She would heat it on an open fire and then personally bathe her husband. Invariably, he would complain that the water was too cold or too hot. But she cheerfully made adjustments and with sweet words continued to serve him. After bathing him and feeding him the cooked food, wild rice and vegetables she had gathered, she would arrange the paraphernalia for his morning worship and assist him in performing the rituals. Only then would she ask his permission to perform her ablutions at the river, which she did quickly so she could return to her husband's side. Again in the evening she followed a similar routine, feeding the sage and preparing all the ingredients for his worship. She would only eat his remnants at night. She would spread soft bedding and lull him to sleep. Then she would nap lying at his feet. She would fan him during the summer and during the winter. She would make a fire to warm him. In the early morning she would lead him to a distant place for his excretion, and after cleansing him would seat him in a suitable place for cleaning his teeth and adorning his body with sacred clay markings. Despite her unremitting service, he constantly complained and found fault with her. Sukanya, however, never argued with him. When he rebuked her, she remained quiet. Then, when his anger had passed, she would speak to him kindly, assuring him that she would improve her service. As the months passed, Chyavana became increasingly attached to Sukanya, and he regretted putting her through so many hardships. Though she had blinded him, he felt deeply grateful and affection towards her. He yearned to be able to make her happy in return. One day, as he sat contemplating how he might repay his young wife, he sensed two men wandering near his hermitage. What did they want? Had they come to steal Sukanya? Did they think he was powerless? He would destroy any aggressor simply by uttering mantras. The sage called out a challenge. Who are you, sirs? Identify yourselves immediately. What is your business here? He heard their footsteps approaching him. Then one said, Dear sir, we are the Ashwini Kumar brothers, come from the heavens. We are in search of rare herbs to make specific medicine. Please forgive our intrusion. Chyavana praised Providence. The Ashwini Kumar's physicians to the gods had come to him. Surely they were the answer to his prayers. His demeanor softened and he said, Welcome to Chyavana's humble abode. The Ashwini brothers looked at each other in wonderment. Folding their hands, they respectfully bowed their heads to the old sage. Please accept our most sincere respects, son of Bhrigu. We have heard much of your power and glory. With difficulty, Chyavana went down on the ground and prostrated himself before the two celestial physicians. You are gods, he said, and I should offer you respects. He gradually raised himself and stood before them in awkward silence. His face flushed. They could sense he wanted to say something but was reticent. If we can serve you in some way, please order us, said Chyavana. Otherwise, with your permission, we will continue with our search. Chyavana cleared his throat. I thought we might be able to render each other some good, he said. I know that since you are merely their physicians, the other celestials do not permit you to drink the somaras offered in sacrifices. But to my ascetic merit, I can change that. The Ashwini's eyes opened wide. They had long coveted the somaras. What would you like from us in return? One brother asked. Give me youth and beauty, which are so pleasing to young women, he said, looking down at the ground. The gods looked quizzically at him. Why would an ascetic hermit would be attractive to young women? Just then the beautiful Sukanya entered the clearing, carrying a basket of fruits on her head. Seeing her husband had guests, she respectfully bowed and addressed Chyavana. My dear husband, there is enough fruit to serve you and your guests. Please come and sit. The Ashwini brothers gave each other a knowing look. Now they understood why Chyavana desired beauty and youth. Soon, Chyavana said irritably, these are the twin Ashwini brothers, celestial physicians. I wish to confer privately with them. When Sukanya had moved away, Chyavana turned to the brothers and said, So, can you grant me what I desire? The two celestials agreed. The two celestials assisted Chyavana to the lakeside. Sprinkling herbs into the water and chanting mantras, they turned to him and said, Immerse yourself in this lake of all success. One who bathes in this water has his desires immediately fulfilled. Seeing the sage having difficulty entering the water, they each took by one arm and plunged in together. Sukanya followed her husband to the lakeside and waited in great anticipation for him to emerge. When finally the three men surfaced, they had identical bodily features. They were each extremely handsome, dressed in fine robes and decorated with golden earrings and garlands of lotuses. Sukanya stood up and called her husband, My dear husband, please show yourself to me. All three men said, Here I am. Sukanya became confused. She sank to her knees before them and prayed to the Ashwini brothers, O protectors of virtue, exalted physicians of the god, I humbly entreat you to show me my husband. The Ashwini brothers were greatly pleased by the girl's chastity and faithfulness. This showed her Chyavana her husband, and after taking permission from him, they returned to the heavens in their aeroplane. The sage and Sukanya then began to enjoy life together in great happiness. Sometimes later, King Sharyati returned to Chyavana's ashram to ask the sage to perform the Soma sacrifice. Alighting from his horse, he looked around the grove and wandered towards the lake. Seeing the sage and Sukanya there, he saw his daughter sitting by the side of an attractive young man. They were laughing and eating forest fruit. Seeing her father approach, Sukanya jumped up and ran towards him. "Father, it's so wonderful to see you." She bowed at his feet. The young man nonchalantly stood up and sauntered over to them. Sharyati's face flushed with fury. He scolded Sukanya. "Unchaste girl, what have you done? You have cheated the most respectable husband who is honored by everyone. For I see that because he was old, diseased, and therefore unattractive, you have left his company to accept as your husband this young man, who appears to be a street beggar." Sukanya stood meekly before her father, a slight smile playing on her lips. The young man had now reached them and stood next to her, not showing the slightest concern in the face of her father's fury. Sharyati was astonished at this disregard for all morality. He tried to reason with Sukanya. "My dear daughter, you were born in a respectable family. How have you disgraced yourself this way? How is it that you are shamelessly maintaining a paramour? Thus you will degrade your fathers and husbands' dynasties to hell." Sukanya merely smiled upon hearing her father's rebukes. "My father, this young man by my side is your son-in-law, the great sage Chyavana, born in the family of Bhrigu." Sukanya explained how her husband had received his rejuvenated body. Astonished, King Sharyati embraced his beloved daughter with great pleasure. Chyavana also lifted the king and embraced him. Sharyati requested Chyavana to perform the difficult Soma sacrifice for him, to which Chyavana readily agreed. He had been waiting for the opportune moment to fulfill his promise to the Ashwini brothers. He commenced the sacrifice the following day, agreeing to offer the celestial physicians a full pot of Somaras. The sacrifice completed, he recited the mantra, summoning the Ashwini Kumars to accept their share of Somaras. As they were about to drink, Indra appeared on his elephant. "Aravat, stop," he commanded. "You have no right to this Somaras reserved only for the principal gods." The Ashwini brothers hesitated and lowered the pot from their lips, fearful of Indra's anger. Chyavana, however, assured them, "Drink without fear. Indra cannot harm one protected by me." Hearing this, the enraged Indra took up his thunderbolt and prepared to hurl it at Chyavana, who with one command paralyzed his arm. Seeing the ease with which Chyavana had overpowered the Indra, fearfully prayed to the powerful sage to forgive him and restore the use of his arm. "I am greatly indebted to these two brothers," replied Chyavana. "Therefore I will give you back the use of your arm only if you promise that from now on they may drink the Somaras along with the other gods." The chastened Indra agreed. Parikshit and the assembled sages applauded Sukanya's chastity. Eager to hear more, Parikshit asked, "Was Sukanya King Sharyati's only child?" "No, he had 3 other sons also, Uttan, Barhi, Anartha and Bhurishena." Anartha's lineage is fascinating. His son Revat constructed his capital city. Kushasthali is in the ocean depths where he ruled over his vast kingdom. Revata had 100 sons, of whom Kakudmi was the eldest. Kakudmi had a daughter named Revati. He once travelled with her to Brahmalok, which is transcendental to the 3 modes of nature. How amazing was that? Kakudmi wanted to ask Lord Brahma who would be a suitable husband for Revati. Hear me what happened. Kakudmi's mystic chariot descended on Brahmalok, the highest material realm, where everything was effulgent, imbued with serenity and exquisitely beautiful. Mystic yogis sat beneath fruit and flower-filled trees, absorbed in deep meditations, murmuring Krishna's names. Holding a father's hand, Revati alighted from the chariot, Father, I am so happy you brought me to this wonderful place. To this wonderful place. Kakudmi looked about. Now, if only we can find someone who will direct us to Lord Brahma's palace. As soon as the words had escaped his mouth, a shimmering mansion appeared before him. Both father and daughter were amazed. Slowly they entered through the first door into a spacious room, brilliantly lit by countless gems. Embedded in the marble walls, pillars of lapis lazuli, wrought with golden filigrees, rose to the high, vaulted ceiling, where they saw exquisite carvings of Krishna and his devotees. Celestial women greeted them warmly and offered them refreshments. "It's very kind of you," said Kakudmi, "but I want to see Lord Brahma as soon as possible." One of the women replied, "My lord is currently listening to a concert by the Gandharvas. He does not wish to be disturbed. Kindly wait a moment." After a short wait, Kakudmi and Revati were ushered into Lord Brahma's audience hall. Having offered their obeisance, Kakudmi and Revati stood with folded hands before the great God. Kakudmi said, "Blessed Lord Brahma, here stands my daughter Revati, who is ornamented with all good qualities. I have been anxious to find her a suitable husband for a long time and seek your advice. Who on earth is suitable for her, Lord?" Brahma laughed, "O king, all those whom you have considered as a possible husband for your daughter have long passed away. 27 cycles of the 4 ages have elapsed since you left. Everyone you knew on earth is dead and gone, and so are the sons, grandsons, and other descendants. No one even remembers their names." No one even remembers their names. Revati began to sob, and Kakudmi reeled back and forth, muttering, "Alas, what a calamity! What am I to do now?" Noting their distress, Brahma said, "Hear me, O king, leave here and return immediately to earth. You will find Lord Baldev, the most powerful supreme person, the source of even Lord Vishnu. Offer your jewel-like daughter to him." Kakudmi's eyes opened wide. "The supreme personality of Godhead is on earth. Yes, he has come with his brother Lord Krishna to remove the earth's burden. They are the well-wishers of all beings. Everyone is purified with uplifted by hearing of and discussing their activities." Kakudmi thanked Brahma, and without any further ado, he and Revati returned to earth and found their city had long been abandoned. Straying upon an elderly recluse, Kakudmi asked him what had happened to the ancient kingdom of Anartha. The hermit said, according to ancient folklore, after mysterious disappearance of King Kakudmi, his relatives, persecuted by high beings like the Yakshas, fled in different directions. Kakudmi heaved a deep sigh, but what could he do now? Krishna's will was supreme. He immediately travelled to Dwarka, where the powerful Balram affectionately received him and his daughter. The king offered Revati's hand to Balram, who gracefully accepted her. Kakudmi then retired from worldly life and went to Narnarayan's ashram in Badrika to perform austerities. And this brings us to the end of chapter number 3. Say Chyavana And Sukanya. Next time we'll continue our reading from chapter 4. Durvasa offends King Ambrish. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Jai Jagannath.